Hello, everyone. Hello to all our audiences, and thank you for joining us for this special Q&A, roundtable Q&A with the filmmakers behind a lot of the films in our first in-competition screening here at the Fightback Awards. We're joined by the co-directors, JD Allen and Vincent Vargas of the SHOEBOX, with the writer and director of A Bit of Coloured Ribbon, James Henry, by the director of DULCE at DECORUM, Walter Haussner, and by the director of the Children's Crusade, Mery. So, starting with, we'll go some quick intros from you guys yourselves. So starting with JD and Vincent, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, your connection to the military, and your film?
Yeah, JD, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I can start. What's up, y'all? I'm JD Allen, co-director with Vincent Vargas on the SHOEBOX, which is a real deep, compelling story that needed to be heard about PTSD. And my connection with the military was Vincent. I wanted him to be a part of this project. He had to be a part of it. He was the right person for for this film. And, that's why me and him collaborated and put it together.
Yep. My name is Vincent Vargas. I'm 18 years in the military, 3 combat deployments with special operations. And so currently I spend my day-to-day being an advocate for veterans with post-traumatic stress and suicide and working with guys helping transition. And in filmmaking, we wanted to kind of hit something that's very pungent. And so I think the storyline that was sent to me by JD, that was created by a veteran, I thought was so relatable, and the way we wanted to tell that story, I thought would leave an impact. And so I jumped on board. I was an actor in one part of it as a drill sergeant, something I've done in my actual career, but helping co-direct and trying to find a lot of the raw emotion in what we wanted to portray. So that's our part.
Great, thanks for that, guys. James Henry, how about you?
Great. Hey, guys. Yeah, James Henry. I'm a West Pointer. Sorry, people have reactions to that. I was an infantry officer for 5 years. I was in 1st Infantry Brigade out in Fort Lewis. Did 2 deployments to Afghanistan. And then I got out, went to, I just graduated from NYU's grad acting program, so I'm an actor. And then I wrote a play that A Bit of Coloured Ribbon is excerpts from, because we couldn't shoot it because of COVID. We couldn't shoot really 2-person scenes, but it's 2-person scenes and then monologues. So I took all the monologue pieces and then some monologues from other parts that I had. Just had the other actors in my program be in them. So it's all actors from the NYU grad acting program. Shot it like all myself, just like some in like black box theaters and then just like outside where we can find some places. I was the only veteran on the project, but yeah, it gave these, it was really, really good too, because a lot of these people are my friends and they were, telling these stories about being in the military that were very, personal to me or personal to people that I know in the military. So then also got to have conversation with these actors who don't have family members in the military. They don't have experience with that, and got to have a dialogue about what that's really like, the background of that, what it means to be a, you see military people in the movies and what they do, and then, but it's, the real just people in their lives and, what they go through. So it's a great process, and yeah.
Walter, how about you and your military experience?
Yeah, my name is Walter Haussner. I'm a veteran of the Air Force. I was in the United States Air Force for 20 years as an aircraft maintenance officer. And our production is DULCE at DECORUM, which is basically it's a rendering of Wilfred Owen's 1918 World War I poem about a chemical warfare attack, a chlorine gas attack. And we just didn't want to do a rendering of a poem. We wanted to present the poem as a flashback. Wanted to make it more than just somebody reciting something. So it's presented as a flashback by a grandfather circa 1967 Vietnam era, and he also has a grandson who's serving in Vietnam. So it's just part of a continuous cycle of war that our country seems to have been at for 200 years. So that's our presentation.
Absolutely. And lastly, Joe, tell us a bit about yourself.
I was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. I was in high school when 9/11 happened. I walked out of class and joined the Marine Corps. They made me finish high school, thankfully. I was one of the first Marines on the ground in Iraq in 2000 and guess that was March 03. And then I fought in Phantom Fury, 2004, 2005 in Fallujah. Went to school after that on the GI Bill at Texas A&M. While I was there, I was the platoon sergeant for the 1st of the 112th Cavalry. It was a guard unit there. Loved it. I failed the doo-doo out of a pre-deployment screening. And they pulled my medical record from the Marine Corps. We were on our way to Egypt, and they retired me in 2015. They're like, sorry, man, we don't let guys with these injuries stay in anymore. Yeah, that's it. So I'm a retired sergeant now. Get a pension, I get health care, all that. I've never worked in film before at all, ever. I didn't even know the words. Built a set myself. I hired all the people myself. I didn't know anything. I was saying like microphone guy and makeup gal. I had literally no idea what I was doing. And anyway, war in particular, and particularly in Western culture, is very much glamorized. And this was an attempt to give, the average non-combat, non-military person a very honest look, at war and what it is. And so yeah.
Yeah, well, it certainly does that. It's certainly a very effective film. I mean, we'll go through a few details of each of your films, actually. We'll start with James Henry, with you. You mentioned that this was a play idea originally, so where did this idea come from you to do the monologues? Like you said, was this just a COVID thing, or have you always liked writing that way? Did you? Because the idea is of the film, for those maybe that haven't seen it, it's you get the perspective of lots of different people, and they're all kind of linked to military life and their experiences, and you get to see all these different worlds and all these different lives that have been touched by war. So where did that idea come from to kind of do that sort of segmented thing?
One of the part of the inspiration for the play is a play called Almost Maine. If anybody's read that, it's a great play. And it's really just like vignettes about this town in Maine. And there's no through storyline. It's just like these two people and their story, and then these two other people, they have nothing to do with each other. But it's sort of the through line of just personal experiences is what I was going for. So that's what the play is. The play is a couple monologues and then a scene featuring a couple characters and then other monologues and just people coming on and off stage. We have a theater festival that I wanted to put it up at, but we were doing things in masks and you had to be 6 feet apart on stage. I hate theater in masks. It's totally unwatchable. So why don't I make a movie? So, let's make a movie. And then, it's very difficult to make the scenes that way. So just wanted to take the monologue pieces and then cast people from, just actors that I'm friends with. They all did it for free, thankfully, which was the only way I was able to make it. Working with different people was interesting because some people were word perfect and did the words exactly, and some people treated it as a vague suggestion. It was very collaborative for a lot of them, especially the comedic ones, which was great. It was a great experience. That's hilarious. I never thought about that. Yeah, and a lot of them have to do with the military. Some of them are just, stories that I've heard from other people or experiences from my life that I think are funny or weird. A lot of the stories about the military are funny stories I've heard from other people, my own experiences, and then just tried to sequence them in a way. There's some of them that are deep and emotional, and then there's ones that are weird and funny. So you don't want to stay down too long, and you don't want to stay up too long. And so hopefully it works as a continuous whole. But then, yeah, it was partly for the actors as well, because we're all making our reels and trying to go out and get acting work. So it was like things that hopefully showcase people well, things that they can do well as actors. So I did the first one, or I put myself first. Yeah, and they don't have anything to do with each other necessarily, but yeah, it's just all my writing and their work.
Yeah, they're great. They come across really well. And Walter, your film is sort of a monologue as well. It's one person is reciting this poem, which I think a lot of us are familiar with. Why did you, instead of making sort of a film about, like a narrative film about what you wanted to say, why did you choose to sort of take these words that were already there and put them on film? Because it's not an thing you immediately think to do, to kind of film a poem. Well, where did that come from? How did you come up with that?
Well, actually, I was working on another film with Steve, who does the recital in DULCE, and the BBC several years ago for Veterans Day did a presentation on Siegfried Sassoon and some Wilfred Owen poems, and we're just talking about it. And so, why don't we do our own take on it? And that was the inspiration, just wanting to do our take on it. But as I mentioned before, we felt that this poem is written in 1918. It's over 100 years old, but it's just as relevant today as it was back then. Wilfred Owen wrote it while he was convalescing in Scotland in 1917. He deployed back to the field and died in combat a week before the armistice was signed. It just resonated with us, and we didn't necessarily bring it up to date because the film takes place in 1967. But I think you could extend that to the present day, and it is visceral. It de-glamorizes, it unshellacks what a lot of armchair warriors think war is, and we just wanted to bring it to a newer generation. That's what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it very much does that. Yeah. And Joe, your film has quite a similar intention in sort of stripping away that, like you said before, stripping away the glorification of war. And in your film, it's more narrative driven. It's very short. It's one of the shortest films we have in the competition. And there's no kind of before and after. It's just sort of the event. It's just one thing. Why did you decide to kind of keep it so focused? There's very little background or backstory or anything.
Money, time. We did it on a shoestring budget. That set, I constructed it myself with one of my friends using leftover construction material. Those are all real actors. In fact, one of the actors, the young man that plays the Marine, he was in LA at the time and said, look, we got $250 a day to pay y'all. And he's like, well, can you at least, pay for my ticket to and from? I was like, I'm really sorry. We're essentially out of money. He's like, I want the part anyway. And so he flew himself out here. And, but yeah, it was a time and a money thing for us. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd love to shoot the, Full Metal Jacket / Platoon of my generation. That's what I'd like to do. And, God willing, sometime in the future that'll come along. But if it doesn't, that's fine too. I was thrilled with how it came out. It was a profoundly emotional shoot. A lot of crying on the set. One of the veterans freaked out, trashed the set at one point. We had a bunch of veterans on set. I did everything I could to hire military, and a lot of the people work for free or next to nothing. And so that's kind of how it came out. And also, I had no idea what I was doing, like none at all. I had no idea. The director of photography, he was military. In fact, he just retired. And him and Dylan, the other producer, basically just kind of kept me within the lines about, hey, this is what's reasonable. You can't ask them to do that. We can't do these things. And so, that's just kind of how it came together.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like you don't know what you're doing anyway. It comes with, and in fact, I think the fact that you didn't have that budget and it is just really short, it makes it more effective in a way, because it's just short and to the point, and it just kind of hits you, and then it's over, JD and Vincent, you've with your film, with the Shoebox, tell us a little bit more about the structure of it, because it's got this sort of framing device thing where you kind of you've got scenes sort of on location, sort of back in in the military, and then you've got with one of the soldiers back home. What that kind of idea of cutting between the two was, whose idea was that? Where did that come from?
That's all
flashbacks. Yeah, I love flashbacks, man. It really gets the audience in the story. So flashbacks is like a must for me. So yeah, that's where that came from. I love flashbacks.
Yeah, because you have this thing of like the flashback doesn't just sort of happen; it's kind of triggered by a certain event, isn't it? Within the film, was that kind of a conscious way to try and explore PTSD? Do you think, were you trying to get the audience to feel that?
Absolutely, exactly. So yeah, triggers. Like, we all have certain type of triggers. So that's what every flashback represents, a certain type of trigger. Even starting off with the little puppy. The little puppy was a trigger. So yeah, PTSD is, it messed with certain types of triggers. Triggers, sets it off, and that's what that was, to get the audience involved in the story, and bring them like deep, like get them to really feel the story and not just watch it or hear it, but actually feel it. So
yeah, and just to speak and add on that, it showed how everyone has a prior trauma. A lot of guys in the military, we join the military for different reasons. Sometimes we're looking for that brotherhood, that family. Some of us are running from whatever. Some of us just want to serve. Everyone has their different thing. But, I like to tell everybody that, veterans, we don't have the monopoly on trauma. You know what I mean? I think society, there's trauma everywhere. And so in the film, these kids have childhood trauma. They have, relationship trauma, the fatherhood, like their father's trauma. So all these different things. And in these pivotal moments of stress, sorry, my son woke up and now it's about to terrorize everything. But, these pivotal moments in the film that it triggered them to kind of think back on their own past traumas. And so it's why to me, it's so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is. It really comes across in the film. And this is another question for everyone, really, so you can sort of take it in turns. This festival was about showcasing the work that you guys have done and the work of veterans in film, but it's also about trying to reach out to other veterans and encourage people to work in film and to sort of use that as a creative outlet. And I just want to know a bit more about the process of how you got this made. Like Joe, you said you made it for nothing, really. And I want to just kind of know, particularly for the veteran guys, how from leaving the military to making a film, what was that journey? Where did that, why go into the film industry, and how did you actually get this film made? How did you get funding and things like that? Joe, should we start with you, because you've already kind of touched on this, really?
I don't know. I started writing a little bit when I was in the service. I did a handful of short stories, just kind of based on, I say short stories, they were all real, based on just the various experiences I was having, and just the complexity of all the different emotions you feel. There are emotions you feel in situations like that I've never felt anywhere else. The process of writing for me is unpleasant. I don't like it. It's not a good feeling. A lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, a lot of waking up on the floor. And then just kind of, when I get up the next day, there's, I live in a camper, live in an RV, it's covered in sticky notes and paper. And I just get up the next day and I just kind of started putting them together. I don't know. I don't know if I have a future in film. I'm not even really actively pursuing it. Sorry, guys. Anyway, this might be the beginning and end of my film career. This was just about telling a story.
Yeah. Well, you've told that story very well. That's for sure. We'll move on. If you take a minute, that's fine, absolutely.
Yeah,
Vince, do you wanna come in here and tell us a little bit about your transition and kind of move into film?
Yeah, I did theater in college and wanted to keep pursuing that later after the military. Started doing YouTube and transitioned into actual producing a film and a documentary and just continuing on my path of just creating film. I ran into JD here in Utah when I moved here, and he has a really solid team of filmmakers, and I challenged them to make a SAG budget film to grow them. And I said I'd join him, and then he brought me the script, and I was like, that's the one I'm in, So it's really just collaborating with other filmmakers and just kind of helping everyone's dream come true. I've been producing film for years now, and so I'm continuing to do that. And this is what happens when you have kids. Here you go, Pop. But the goal is to continue to tell the stories, right? Why do we as veterans want to be in film? We want to be storytellers. Somewhere in Hollywood that has fallen short of guys like us who have the experience telling it ourselves. And so to me, it's up to us to tell our own stories in the way that we want them to be told, right? It really is up to us. And so I've been doing this now for over 10 years and barely making waves in the areas that I'm in, and so it's just one step, and it's beautiful to see all these other veterans jumping in here and doing this. This is very important for us, for our own history, for our own legacies, for those who have fallen before us, and to tell their stories. Like I said, there's no one else who will tell that story in the way that we deserve it to be told unless we're doing it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to follow up on that, so you think, you think Hollywood and the people with the power and the money have been getting it wrong, all this time, really, and you kind of need that voice yourself to.
I would say that Hollywood touches on it, they do their best, but I think it comes from a place of where they want to tell the story as best as possible, but in all honesty, they'll always miss the mark if it isn't us being the ones portray that message. I mean, there's films out there that win Academy Awards and all these things that have no validity and honesty in what happens in combat, right? And so that's hard to watch. There's a film that someone made called Sergeant Granger, and the gentleman ends up with losing everything. Like, that's the story you want to tell the veteran community? There's so many successful veterans in this community that don't get a voice. And I've refused to allow other people to tell that story. My job is to tell the story of all these successful veterans. Look at James Henry. I've never met him before, but that's a successful man. West Point, combat, now he's continuing on his path. Like, those are the stories that need to be told for the youth, young soldiers that are getting out of the military, the young Marines getting out of the military and looking up to people saying, hey, that is a path I can take. There's a gap in Hollywood that doesn't have veterans telling the story. There's a gap, and someone needs to fill that gap. And I think it's time. And I think we're doing that, but just the testament of the people in this room. And when we start to see that, you'll start to see a more honest story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Vince, you touched on James's there. So James, do you want to come in and tell us a bit more about how you've come into this film and how you got this particular film made, and got it out there?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would like to put in the room is my budget was $0. My budget was zero. I didn't pay anyone. And that is like, it's a 33-minute film. You can do that. It takes a lot of legwork, and it took a lot of help. And I think the two ways that I was able to do that was, people got good footage from it. That's valuable to actors. And then actors also really value their time. So like, we did these monologues. I never kept anybody there for more than 40 minutes. Like, I'm sending you the script a month in advance. I expect you'll show up off book. We're going to come in, we're going to shoot, and I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to keep you on set for 12 hours waiting to shoot this thing. I'm an actor. I really appreciate that, you sit on set all day, and it's, when you're not getting paid, it's like, that's brutal. So I do just like tell it, like, do it right now. Write something. Take your iPhone out and shoot it. My iPhone, I have a camera. Your iPhone's just as good as your camera. Go out and choose something. It'll probably be terrible, and then make something else, and make something else. And then like the sixth thing will be, great. Tell your stories right now. Don't wait. You don't need money. You don't need, you know, budgets or anything. It's nice to have, but like, do it right now. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good advice. It's good advice. Walter, how have you come into filmmaking and come to this path post-military?
You know, it was something I was always interested in ever since I was a kid. I mean, I can remember going to the cinema when I was 3 years old. But when I hit my 60th birthday, I said, this is a bucket list thing, and I need to finally do this. And that was my first film, Edie. And while we were shooting Edie, that's when DULCE came up. So DULCE is actually the second film that I've done. Steve and I, it was only two involved. Steve was the talent, and I just did everything else. We shot it one Saturday afternoon in about an hour and a half. And then I have to take that back. There's a third individual, my friend Sean, who I served with in Egypt. He did the radio broadcast. I told him what I needed, and he did it and sent it to me and edited it to the film. So shot it in about an hour and a half, and post-production took about a week. And we really just did it for ourselves. But I said, you know, I think it turned out all right. Why don't enter it in some festivals? And I've just been fortunate enough for it to be accepted to a few, and I appreciate it being accepted for your festival. So really, filmmaking is a bucket list thing for me, and I'm enjoying it. We're planning something in a couple of months to shoot. So, but it's a hobby. It's not a vocation for me. It's just something I really enjoy. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And to go back to the kind of your specific films again, Joe, with your film with Children's Crusade, that is, I mean, this Q&A is sort of post screening, so you know everyone's seen it really. So the ending of the film, and the whole thing where you have just two people and you have a thing where they both end up dead at the end of it. That decision and that kind of it's a shocking film. It's quite, you know, brutal really, you know, to watch. And what kind of, when you set out to tell this story, what were you thinking? What am I saying? What do I want people to take away from this?
What did you get out of it? What was your takeaway from it?
Me?
Yes.
Well, yeah. My take, as someone who has very little, you know, other than working on this festival, very little military experience, you know, veteran experience, military life myself, it very much seemed to me that because obviously there's this fight, and it's a desperation to survive really from both men, and yet a complete almost respect for each other, in the sense of both feeling sorry for the other one but having to do what they have to do to survive. And then obviously at the end, when they're both ended there anyway, it just feels incredibly pointless. And I think the fact that the way I think you shoot it, when you don't see anything outside of this whole battle is closed off. It's in like it's not on the battlefield, you know, for those who haven't seen it, it's enclosed, and therefore nobody really even knows this has happened. It hasn't affected anything else. It's just happened and ended, and two more lives have been lost.
And for what? Yeah. You know, that was, you know, what you said. I'm not really sure I can add to that. That's what I was going for. I wanted, you know, it's the Children's Crusade. It's history repeating itself over and over again. It's, you know, these, you know, powers have been going to that part of that world for centuries now. You know, and we're fighting the same fights over and over again. And it's overwhelmingly, you know, war is old men talking and young men dying. And to add to that, it's not just men, for women and children and however it is you identify. You know, it's just the cruelty and the brutality and the pointlessness of it. You know, America, the United States, we spent $6.5 trillion since 9/11 trying to combat this situation. We've lost thousands more Americans. We accomplished virtually nothing. I think the exact opposite of our goals. In fact, I think, we made more enemies. The region is less stable. And for what? And for what was this what I hope people will ultimately ask themselves, was this the right way to respond to a terrorist attack? And in the end, we achieved nothing. We poured $6.5 trillion into a hole. And what if we had spent that on education, infrastructure, healthcare here in the United States? What if we were building bridges instead of walls? What if we were trying to understand, why are these people angry with us? Why are they attacking us? What can we be doing to prevent it? And instead, we reacted with horrifying violence against people that essentially couldn't defend themselves. Here we are today, and people are just kind of letting it go and moving on. And that's not what we should be doing. We should take a really honest look at what we did there in the Middle East and ask ourselves, was this the correct way to respond? That's the question I want everybody asking themselves. And, my answer is no. Did we achieve our goals? No, we didn't. Is the world a better, safer place? No, it isn't. Did we degrade their ability to attack us in any meaningful way? No. And we keep doing it. We keep doing it. It's not like it happened decades or generations ago. We're still dealing with these problems today and still recreating them over and over and over again. And I really, really, really wish we would take some profound lessons away from this instead of just repeating the same mistakes over and over. So.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Joe. That was great, and there's a real I think message there for all of us, and that very much comes across in your film as well, in such a clear, succinct way. I think it's fantastic. JD and Vince, you, I think one thing I want to ask is unlike Joe's film, which is all set on the battlefield, you chose to kind of focus on the aftermath instead. I just want to know a little bit more about why you kind of wanted to show that and wanted to show somebody, the story of someone living that life afterwards, and like you said, Vince, there's trying to have some positivity perhaps as well in trying to show a veteran who, the main character who we see at the Shoe Store living a successful life in a lot of ways, yet still struggling with these scars.
Yeah, I wanted the breath of fresh air. I told JD, I said, I won't do it if it's just doom and gloom. I'm tired of that, right? The breath of fresh air is the reality of this all is, like I said before, you can heal trauma. You can go to counseling. Like, counseling is cool. All these things that I'm trying to push to veterans, like, we can heal all this shit, right? And it's very important to talk about that sentiment, right? You don't have to continue to live with these demons. This guy's a little demon himself. But you don't have to live with these demons and haunt you all the time. There is these answers, right? There's all these counseling modalities that are out there. And sometimes the alpha male doesn't want to look weak by saying he struggles with these issues. And so in this sentiment, the box, right, and the shoebox, the whole time, the name of the film is called Shoebox. There's putting everything in your shoebox, and then him at the end deciding it's okay to get rid of that shoebox. It's okay to let go. It's okay to move forward and grow. You know what I mean? Is the whole message in my head is allow yourself to, yes, we can. I've lost brothers in combat, and it bothers me daily, but it inspires me as well to do more and be better for them. And in that sense is I've had to accept that loss, and I've had to do what I can with that loss the way I interpret it is being the best version of myself for others. And so I'm going to be the best father that they couldn't be. I'm going to be the best mentor and leader that they couldn't be anymore, and that their families deserve to see that the people aren't, the guys, the men and women that serve with them aren't taking their lives for granted, because that's what we owe to them, in my opinion. And so this message was telling that story of, it's time to accept and move forward and continue on with life. you know, and we obviously cannot ignore some of these traumas that are instilled in us. There's things that we can't control. And so my goal was to, in the end, it was, if we were going to do this film, it had to have a breath of fresh air. JD?
Oh no, you hit the nail on the head, brother. That's what the message was. Letting go. Trauma could happen before even stepping foot on war. You know, that was part of the message. Yeah, you said everything just right. That's exactly what the shoebox is. Throwing that shoebox away and just, you know, letting go, moving on.
Yeah, and for you, JD, as a filmmaker as well, just how did you find the actual shooting of it, the kind of the location bits, and the when you are shooting kind of the bit on the battlefield compared to the bit back, you know, post there? Is there kind of a difference in the way you approach working with your actors and things?
Oh yeah. It's always about relaying that message and making the audience believe, or you know, the actors. So I found like real veterans and people who's passionate about, you know, what the vision. It's all about the vision. So even finding a location like Afghanistan, of course that's hard, but you know, we found like the closest thing we could find and we made it work, you know. And yeah, just getting that message out there to the audience of just being able to let go. Like, we all go through shit. Everybody, you know, we all go through shit, even, you know, as kids. That's why the flashbacks was important, because, you know, you see the little kids seeing their mom getting abused, and, you know, all that shit, you know, mess with your head. So yeah, it was an effort of getting the right contacts and people that believe in your vision to tell that story.
Yeah, that's great. And Walter, I just want to ask about your. You mentioned before about bringing this poem, about bringing DULCE DECORUM to a new audience, and I just wondered why the setting of it is. You set the you said you set the reading of the poem in the Vietnam era, of someone looking back on earlier time. I just wondered why you went, considering you're kind of going for a contemporary audience with this, why you decided to have that Vietnam setting and staging as opposed to something more current, say in Iraq or Afghanistan.
One thing is my actor was 67 years old, so chronologically it would have been true if he were having a flashback to his age. So if he served in World War I in 1918, and DULCE is actually a flashback triggered by this radio broadcast, that would have been his true age. So but Vietnam and what's gone on in the past since 2001, it's all part of the same cycle. So I was just thinking this part of that endless cycle that I think all of us have talked about here. So, and I was hoping that people who know what's gone on in the past 20 years will see, well, this took place in Vietnam, but they very well could be talking about what's going on today. So that's what we tried to convey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I just want to take a quick minute here again, just to thank all of you so much for doing this and for, you know, talking to us about your experiences and speaking your truth. And it really is wonderful to see. And we'll be wrapping up fairly soon. And James, I just wanted to come back to you quickly, because I haven't asked you another question this round. I just wanted to know a bit more about, as a more practical question, it's about your actors, really. And you've got so many great actors in this doing their bit. And I think from a practical point of view, for people watching, just, you know, where you found these people and how you build up those connections and that bunch of people.
Yeah, it's all the actors in there are in the NYU grad acting program, which, I mean, I just graduated from it. I think it's great. And there's some very successful actors that came out of there, like, you know, Corey Stoll, Mahershala Ali. Like, it's a very high-speed actor training program. I think the two things that each of them brought that I think was really special, and it's kind of what Vince said, is that really an understanding of not sitting in the obstacle of all of these things, especially the ones that were a little bit darker or more tragic, like not sitting in it, because that, like, humans are trying to move past it. Humans are trying to make their lives better. They're not sitting in the tragedy of it. And I thought, you know, all of them just did a very good job of that. Yeah, and these people are all my friends. I've seen them work a lot in shows and scene study and stuff, which was really an asset because I wrote several of these pieces for people in particular. And I think they're going to capture that way, or this is going to touch them in a certain way. And then it was beautiful to also write some things and have people respond to it in ways that were just totally different from the way that I had experienced it. The ways that it touched them, like I said, we ended up talking about life in the army and Afghanistan, and for hours with some of these people who have no experience in the military, and that's why you make movies and you tell stories, right? So human beings are talking to each other and listening and changing their minds and hearts about things. That's kind of foo-foo, but that's like why you do it. And I got a small taste of it with a lot of people that I love. I'm very lucky in that way.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And like I say, you came up with a great film at the end of it. And as sort of, I think just to close off from each of you, just maybe a quick word on how the process of filmmaking for you was important, and how you actually found, like Joe, I know you said you found the writing process very difficult. The actual shooting process and working with a camera and actors, and how you will find that, and whether that's something that you is harder for you, or you find that helpful with everything. And yeah, I just wanted to know how you find the actual experience of filming. Joe, do you want to, if you feel you'd like to start? Oh, sorry, you're just muted, Joe. Can you just? Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right. Thank you.
No, it was so profound. It was just really incredible. It was a wonderful, but very emotional experience for me, but also for a lot of people that were never in the military. At one point, we had to get the makeup artist off the set because she was crying so loud we were picking it up on the microphone. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. I just hope we find a better way to handle these kinds of situations in the future. That's all I want. I hope just people say, is this really the right way to respond? That's it.
Well, you definitely asked that with your film. We definitely just come across, and it's fantastic that you've made it, and we've been able to show it. It's great. And Walter, how about you? How do you find filming?
It's exhilarating, but it's nerve-wracking. It's fulfilling. It's exhausting, but it's something I really love to do. So I hope that is conveyed with what we did.
JD and Vince, is that something you also feel?
Oh yeah, I love the process. The whole process of filmmaking is so hard and it's so demanding, but that's what I love. I love working with Vincent and working with other filmmakers and coming together with one common goal. It's hard as shit, and that's what I love about it, though.
Yeah, and Vince, as a veteran, how do you find that process, telling your story and getting to do that?
I think it's a necessity, right? I think there's got to be someone doing it. I think this whole room here, veterans doing it, is just one step in the right direction. The process is the process, man. It's all everything takes work. But for me, it's if you want to get a message out there, then you got to keep making films, and that's a tip of the cap to Joe. I wouldn't stop here, bud. You want to keep pushing the message, keep making your films. Not everyone has to agree with the ideology of it, but if that's your goal, you got to keep putting in that work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you've definitely got, as Vince says, you've definitely got some talent. You've definitely got something to say there, Joe. So, we as audiences definitely hope you pursue that and just do whatever's right for you. And James, if you want to finish us off on how you found shooting, as a veteran.
When it goes well, and I've been on professional sets before, when there's 150 people and all that stuff, and everybody's got their different job. It's like the military when it's going well, because everybody knows their specific slice of the puzzle. Like, I'm an actor, and you get in front of the camera and it seems more important. It's like, man, you can't have a movie without a gaffer. You can't do anything without, you know, your director of photography. And it really, you know, doing it all myself really is like, oh, this is why you have a team and all sorts of filmmakers. There's a lot of jobs and there's a lot of stuff that goes into making these stories, and like not just veteran actors, you know, like Adam, you know, we got Adam Driver. Okay, cool. But like, let's get people, you know, behind the camera. Let's get directors, let's get writers, let's get, you know, DPs, because all of those jobs are crucial to the storytelling. And, you know, it's great to experience it with a small team and hopefully experience it on a professional set, you know, with a bunch of veterans in the future. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what this, the Fight Back Awards is all about. And what we've been trying to showcase and hopefully to tell your stories, and to, you know, your films have certainly, they've touched me and they've, you know, sent a message, I think, to me and the people putting this festival together, and we hope it can reach a lot more people. And so the last thing we do is just thank you all so much. Thank you for your films, thank you for your stories, thank you for submitting, thank you for agreeing to this, and thank you so much for just speaking so interestingly and profoundly about everything. So I just want to thank you all again one more time, and we'll end it there. And I hope everyone watching enjoys the rest of the festival. Check it out. Hopefully we'll be back next year with more of this, and another Q&A for the other in competition screening.